Sharo says, since Ovarajya Sharo is traveling today, he has to come in his place.
Nirai Sharo Yagi Yogi go Ni Yone Diario Honi Vare. Sharo Yi Hode Dia Neve Alum Tizuni Vare. Taimeleve Nota Tiziari Kumalu Adali de Shin Leve Matazia Yaon, so you don't love your dear Hokuya.
Every day, Ovaracharya Sharo has been giving discourses, and these discourses are sufficient to fulfill you with all the knowledge about the practice. However, there are things to know, and he has to just fill in the blank for your sake.
Vivadana Deya Sura Bebuku Ho Turuave Nebango Duare Neban Sura Deha, the Kuda Sidagado Nebango Duare Lanjam Lebe, the Kuda Side. I young Bebuku Ho Deagaroki.
As for this Vipassana insight meditation or insight practice, whoever gives a talk on this topic, all the topics, all the discourses are more or less the same, because Nibbana is one and there's only one way to reach Nibbana. So whoever gives a talk, the discourses are more or less the same.
Nibbana goes what a land so Garo, who yogi kidney making shipa lancing away, Teddy making shipa lancing her, Nibbana goes what the Kudido lamb away.
The practice that the yogis are undertaking are the practice of the noble path of 8 constituents, which is the way towards realizing Nibbana.
Juanging that Siadama Yaga and Mido Langyon needed a time. They are Atuba Roshin, Lamazia, Bama Shiva, Ajamu Mamantazane, Mamanganga, than they are King Shin Bido, they are Atubu Luare.
Since the skilled teachers have given the instructions and everyone practices according to these instructions and guidance, then one is bound to realize the Nibbana. And there's only one way to realize the Nibbana. If you practice this without any skeptical doubt, without wavering, then you are bound to realize this goal.
Buddha Varaye, Anitara Suraha, Mumyante Kissing Tiari. Momia the kissing Tiario, let it never ma. Chepun Wames Roshi. Mimi Kit the loud. Tiari Yasini Valley.
The Buddha's doctrines give the noble path of practice. So if one undertakes this practice according to the path shown by the enlightened one, as much as you practice, you are bound to realize the benefit.
Vivadana Bhavana Dhyamyago Bomya Atuda Suraha Say Lunga Pivare Lurega Apiva Ayundi Bomada Susabi Nigara Dejambo Mimi a Kodima Side Say Lunga Vigo, Malugane, Mini Javare Mimi a Sego, Mimi a Kudhama, a Medici Tana Roshin. Kudhama Pony at Diabigo, a chimney, Bebumasu, Fina Javare.
The Vipassana Bhavana, the practice of insight, means the work of the mind. It is a mental work. Now, as for ordinary beings, they focus their attention. They always direct their attention to outside objects, external things, and they forget to direct their attention inwardly. That means into their body to understand the nature of their mind. So, if they are able to direct their attention, steady their attention towards their body, they are bound to see the nature of the body anytime.
အပြင်ဘအာယုံမိတွေမှာသာလင်စိတ်ကအမြဲနေတယ်ဆိုတော့ဒီတရားအထုတဲ့အခါမှာစိတ်ကိုကိုယ်တွင်းမှာထားရတဲ့အခါဆိုတော့စိတ်ကကိုယ်တွင်းမှာမနေနိုင်ဘူးအပြင်ကိုခဏခဏထွက်တယ်ရေထဲမှာနေတဲ့ငါဟာကုန်းပေါ်မှာထားလိုက်ရင်မနေတတ်မထိုင်တတ်ဖြစ်တယ်လို့ပဲအပြင်မှာသာလင်အနေမြတဲ့စိတ်ကိုအတွင်းထက်မှာထားလိုက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့စိတ်ကမနေနိုင်ပဲနဲ့အပြင်ခဏခဏထွက်တယ်အဲ့ဒီခဏခဏထွက်နေခြင်းဟာလည်းပဲတရားထုတဲ့ယောဂီများအတွက်တရားတဲလမ်းမှာနှိပ်ကွေးစေတဲ့သဘောတစ်ခုပါပဲ
Since as has been said, people in general pay attention to external objects. They think about external things, so that when they come to the retreat and undertake this practice of insight meditation, and when they are required to steady their attention on the objects arising in the body, the mind becomes restless and it goes out very often as they have been used to. So it is like a fish which has its home in the water, is taken out of the water. It cannot stay on the land. It will jump and becomes restless. So also, when yogis are asked, instructed to steady their focused attention and connect with the objects in the body, then they become restless. They're distracted. They become restless, and the mind goes out, and there's scattering of the mind, so that this scattering of the mind can delay the progress in the practice.
အမှန်တရားကိုတကယ်သိလို့တဲ့ဆန္ဒရှိတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မိမိရဲ့စိတ်ကိုမိမိရဲ့ကိုယ်ထဲမှာအမျက်တစီထားဖို့ပါပဲမိမိရဲ့စိတ်ကလေးကိုမိမိရဲ့ကိုယ်ထဲမှာအမျက်တစီထားပြီးထားနိုင်ပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အမှန်တရားတွေဟာတဖြည်းဖြည်းသိလာမှာအမှန်ပဲ
If we wish to know the truth, then all we have to do is be with the moment. That means be with the body, one's own body, all the time. Then we are bound to realize the truth.
အမှန်တရားကိုမြန်သိချင်တယ်ဆိုရင်မိမိရဲ့စိတ်ကိုကိုယ်ထဲမှာမြဲထားဖို့အရေးကြီးပါတယ်
So if we want to see the truth and the real, nothing but the real truth, then it is necessary or essential to keep the mind in your body all the time.
သူများသောအဖြစ်ယောဂီတွေကကိုယ်ထဲမှာပေါ်တဲ့တရားကိုရှုပြီးတော့ပြီးတဲ့အချိန်နဲ့အပြင်မှာစိတ်ရောက်နေတဲ့အချိန်ပြင်မှာနေတဲ့အစိတ်ကတော်တော်များပါတယ်။ဒါကြောင့်မို့အမှန်တရားတွေကိုမသိပဲဖြစ်နေကြတယ်
So most of the yogis have been used to thinking about many things with fragmentary thoughts, being restless, used to being restless. So that since the mind is always going out, restless and distracted, scattering, so that they are not able to see the truth as required.
ယောဂီများအတွက်ဒီနေ့သိလွယ်တဲ့နည်းနဲ့ယောဂီများမှာတကယ်လိုအပ်နေတဲ့တရား6ပါးကိုဥပမာလေးနဲ့အကျဉ်းချုပ်ပြီးတော့ဘုန်းကြီးဟောပြပါမယ်
Today, Sara would like to give a not a difficult talk, an easy one, to make you understand easily. And he will give you a talk on the 6 things that the yogis are required to possess.
ကျမ်းဂန်မြတ်မှာထမင်းချဲသမားဟာထမင်းချဲတဲ့အခါမှာအင်္ဂါ6ပါးပြည့်စုံဖို့လိုအပ်တယ်လို့တဲ့တရားအထုတဲ့ယောဂီများမှာလည်းပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုတကယ်လိုချင်တယ်ဆိုရှင်ယောဂီတိုင်းမှာ အင်္ဂါ6ပါးပြည့်စုံဖို့တကယ်လိုအပ်ပါလေ
Just as a good cook needs to possess 6 factors or elements to become a good cook, so too the yogis, the practicing yogis need to possess 6 factors if they wish to realize Nibbana.
သမင်းချတဲ့အခါမှာလိုအပ်တဲ့အင်္ဂါ6ပါးဆိုတာကနံပါတ်1အိုးရယ်နံပါတ်2ဆန်ရယ်နံပါတ်3ရေရယ်နံပါတ်4သမင်းချသမားရယ်နံပါတ်5သမင်းကိုမှွေတဲ့ရောက်မရယ်နံပါတ်6မီးရယ်ဒီ6ရွတ်လိုအပ်ပါတယ်
Now 6 things which are required by the cook is first a pot. This is the first thing you need. And then, of course, in this country, the staple food is rice. You need rice. Then water to cook with. And the actual cook. And then the ladle to mix or stir. And then, of course, last and most important one is fire.
ထို့တူတရားထုတ်တဲ့ယောဂီများမှာလည်းပဲအင်္ဂါ6ပါးဆိုတာရှိတယ်အဲ6ပါးဆိုတာကသိပိသတရားတွေပါပဲဒါဝင်လည်းပဲထပ်ပြီးတော့နာကြရတာပေါ့တထာယဝိရိယယတတိယသမာဓိယပညာယနောက်သီလယဒီအင်္ဂါ6ပါးပြည့်စုံမှတရားရနိုင်တယ်
Now so too the 6 factors which should be possessed by the yogis. Of course, you already know these things, but as we always say that even if we know, we listen again to know better, understand better. So these 6 factors are saddha, that means faith and confidence, viriya, energy, sati, mindfulness, samadhi, concentration, panya, wisdom, and sila, morality. သမင်းချတဲ့အခါမှာအင်္ဂါ6ပါးနဲ့ပြည့်စုံတဲ့သမင်းရသမင်းကောင်းဖြစ်တယ်လို့အခုပြောတဲ့အင်္ဂါ6ပါးနဲ့ပြည့်စုံတဲ့ယောဂီမှာလည်းပဲတရားကောင်းကောင်းဖြစ်ပေါ်လာပါလိမ့်မယ်။ဒါကြောင့်အင်္ဂါ6ပါးပြည့်စုံဖို့ယောဂီများမှာလိုအပ်ပါတယ်။ Just as when the cook possesses these 6 factors, then he or she will make a good food or rice in this case. So too with the yogis, if they possess these 6 factors or 6 elements, then they will become good practitioners, and their practice also will be very good. ဥပမာအဖြစ်တရားတွဲပြီးပြောပြရမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ယုံကြည်ရဲ့တရားတရားကအိုးနဲ့တူပါတယ် Now to give this analogies, similes, the saddha, faith and confidence, is like a pot. မကျုံမပေါက်ပဲနဲ့သန့်ရှင်းစင်ကြယ်တဲ့သီလကတော့ဆန်နဲ့တူပါတယ် Now the rice which is not broken, sometimes whole rice, rice grain which are not broken, is like sila. Or sila is like the unbroken rice. အာယုံပေါ်မှာအချိန်ကြာကြာစွဲမြဲတည်နေတဲ့သမာဓိတရားကရေနဲ့တူပါတယ် And then the samadhi on which mind falls calm and collected is like water. အရာရာမှာပိုင်ချပြီးတော့သိနေတဲ့ပညာတရားကတော့ပဲသမီးချက်သမားနဲ့တူပါတယ် And then the discriminating wisdom, insight wisdom, to penetrate all things in a distinct manner, is like the cook. အမှန်ရနေတဲ့တတိတရားကတော့ဖြစ်သမင်းကိုမှွေတဲ့သမင်းအုပ်ကိုမှွေတဲ့ယောမနဲ့တူပါတယ် And then this mindfulness which you sustain is like the ladle to stir or mix the rice when you are cooking.
ခန္ဓာကိုယ်ထဲမှာရှိနေတဲ့တရားတွေကိုအမှန်တိုင်းသိအောင်အဆက်မပြတ်အထုံနေတဲ့အဝိရိယတရားကတော့ဖြင့်အပူဓာတ်အမီးနေတူပါတယ်
And the energy that you have to exert in order that you are able to activate your mindfulness on every arising an object is like fire.
အဲ့ဒါခုပြောတဲ့တရား6ပါးကိုတစ်ခုချင်းအနည်းငယ်ပြန်ပြီးရှင်းပြပါဦးမယ်
So what we have just discussed about this, namely 6 factors, will be explained one by one.
တရားတရားဟာအိုးနေတူတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့အိုးမရှိရင်ထမိခဲ့လို့မရပါဘူးထမိခဲ့တဲ့ခါကျတော့အိုးပါမှထမိခဲ့လို့ရတယ်အိုးမရှိပဲထမိပဏိနေမှခဲ့လို့မရဘူးဒီဥပမာအတိုင်းပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်ဆိုတဲ့တရားကိုလူရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကလည်းပဲတရားတရားဒီလိုယုံကြည်ချက်ရှိမှရတယ်ယုံကြည်ချက်တရားတရားမရှိရင်ဗဏိနေမှတရားကိုမရနိုင်ပါဘူးဒါကြောင့်တရားတရားအိုးနေတူပါတယ်
Now we say that saddha, faith and confidence is just like a pot in which you cook the rice. Now without a pot you cannot by any means cook the rice. So also yogis who want to realize nibbana should possess saddha, faith and confidence. Without this confidence, they are not able to realize the sublime Dhamma.
ကိုကြီးတိလတရားပြည့်စုံတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တယောက်ဟာဘယ်အချိန်မှပဲတရားအထုတ်နိဗ္ဗာန်ဆိုတာရနိုင်တယ်။ဒါကြောင့်မို့နိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုလူရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များဟာကိုကြီးတိလကိုလုံးဝမပြည့်စေရဘူးမကျိုးစေရဘူး။တိလရှိမှနိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုရနိုင်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့ဆံတိဟူသောတိလဟာအင်မတန်မှအရေးကြီးတယ်။လူတွေမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲ7ပါးတိလအမြဲကိုလိုအပ်တယ်။ယဟန်တော်များမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲ228ပါးသိက္ခာတိလအမြဲကိုလိုအပ်တယ်။အကယ်၍တိလတွေကကျုပ်ပေါင်းနေမယ်ဆိုရင်တရားဘလို့နည်းနဲ့ပဲအထုတ်ဘယ်နည်းနဲ့မှတရားကိုမရနိုင်ဘူး။ဒါကြောင့်တိလဟာဆံနဲ့တူပါတယ်
Now this, if one possesses the training precepts, sila, if they practice any time, they are bound to realize nibbana in due course. If they are able to sustain these training precepts without breaking, weakening, or any breaking it, then one is able to realize nibbana. It's like the rice. Rice also is like the sila. So, in the case of the meditators, yogis, they are to practice the 8 training precepts during the retreat, and also the monks have to sustain the 227 rules of conduct for monks. So, if they are able to sustain that, they will realize the nibbana. If they do not have this moral conduct, if they cannot sustain these training precepts, however much they practice meditation, they will not realize nibbana.
သမင်ကောင်းကောင်းကိုစားလို့တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာဆံကောင်းကောင်းကိုရွေးချယ်ပြီးတော့ဝေရတယ်လို့နိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုမြင်မြန်ဆန်းဆန်းအလိုရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကလည်းပဲသီလကိုဖြူစင်တဲ့ထက်ဖြူစင်အောင်တင်းတင်းကြပ်ကြပ်ကျင့်ဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်။ဒါကြောင့်မို့နိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုသွားတဲ့နေရာမှာသီလအဓိကလိုအပ်တဲ့တရားတစ်ခုပါပဲ
Whoever wants to take good rice, cooked rice, then he or she has to choose the rice grain, from the beginning, which is white, or if you want white, if you want brown, of course brown rice, for minerals and vitamins and all that. Either brown or white, you choose a good one, so that you can enjoy good food, good rice. So too, whoever wants to realize nibbana needs to sustain his training precepts, sila, in a pure way, and in a very strictly pure way. not to break or weaken. So, when one is marching or one is practicing towards Nibbana, Sila is in the main. One has to be grounded first in the training precepts.
သမင်းချတဲ့အခါမှာရေမပိုင်လည်းမဖြစ်နေတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့ရေဟာသမင်းချတဲ့အခါမှာအဓိကတဏှာကနေပြီးတော့ပါနေတယ်။ဒီရေနဲ့ဆံကိုဖြစ်ချင်တဲ့အခါမှာရေနဲ့ဆံဟာအလောတော်ထည့်ဖို့လိုအပ်တယ်။ဆံနေပြီးတော့ရေများနေရင်လည်းပဲမဖြစ်ဘူး။ရေများပြီးတော့ဆံနေရင်လည်းပဲမဖြစ်ဘူး။ဒါကြောင့်မို့သမင်းချတဲ့အခါမှာရေနဲ့ဆံဟာအလောတော်ရှိဖို့အဓိကအရေးကြီးတယ်လို့တရားအထုတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုသွားတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲတီကြီးခိုင်မာတဲ့သမာဓိတရားဟာလည်းအမှန်တမ်းအရေးကြီးပါတယ်။ဒါကြောင့်မို့သမာဓိတရားရှိအောင်အစမပြတ်အပွားများအပ်ဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်။
It is not possible to cook rice without water. Water here is again the main thing, without which you cannot cook rice. And when you put mix water and rice, you have to put them or mix them in the right proportions. If you put too much of water, then it will become too soft. And if you put too little water, also it will be very hard, so that you won't be able to chew. So you have to mix these two things, rice and water, in the right proportions. And only then it will give rise to a good cooked rice. So also with the practice, you need a very strong, deep level of concentration in order to realize the goal. So it is necessary for the yogis to be able to concentrate their mind.
တရားအထုနေတဲ့ရှုမှန်းနေတဲ့ယောဂီတွေဟာဖောင်းမှုပိန်မှုစရှိတဲ့အာယုန်ဒီပေါ်မှာရှုမှန်းတဲ့သမာဓိတရားတည်ငြိမ်လာမှသာနေဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်ဆိုတာဖြစ်ပေါ်လာနိုင်တယ်။သမာဓိတရားကမတည်ငြိမ်ဘူးဆိုရင်ဉာဏ်ကမဖြစ်ဘူး။ဒါကြောင့်မို့သမာဓိတရားဟာအဓိကအမှန်အရေးကြီးတယ်။သမာဓိမရှိရင်ဉာဏ်မဖြစ်နိုင်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့ဖောင်းမှုပိန်မှုစရှိတဲ့အာယုန်ဒီပေါ်မှာတည်ကြည်တဲ့ခိုင်မာတဲ့သမာဓိတရားအမှန်အရေးကြီးပါတယ်။
Now only when you are able to steady your mindfulness attention on the object, to be able to connect with the object precisely, thus giving rise to the deep level of concentration. With the deep level of concentration, you will see things in their true nature, vipassana jnana, insight knowledge. If you are not able to concentrate your mind, you will not see things in their true nature. So concentration here is in the main. So it is necessary to be able to stay with the objects, anchor your mind on the main objects of rising and falling and other objects as they arise in order to deepen your level of concentration. Therefore concentration here is very important in order to cultivate knowledge.
အာယုံပေါ်မှာသမာဓိတရားဖြစ်အောင်အချိန်ကြာကြာမထနေတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့ယောဂီတွေကတရားမှန်တဲ့အခါမှာစိတ်တွေကဟိုရောက်ဒီရောက်ဟိုစဉ်းစားဒီဟာကိုစဉ်းစားတွေ့တော့မှုဆင်ခြင်မှုယူမကန်ပြဖြစ်မှုဆိုတဲ့ဒီဟာတွေဟာသမာဓိမရှိလို့ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့သဘောတရားတွေပါပဲဒါကြောင့်မို့သမာဓိဖြစ်အောင်အထူးကြိုးစားကြပါ
Because one cannot concentrate one's mind by noting one's mind does not fall calmly collected on the object for a certain length of time, so that the dirty mind overshoots the object and then goes here and there, becomes restless, thinking, conceptualizing, and wondering, and all sorts of things, so that sometimes doubts may arise because one cannot get the result. So concentration is very necessary. Because of the lack of concentration, such things happen.
သမင်းချက်တဲ့အခါမှာသမင်းချက်သမားဟာမိမိချက်နေတဲ့သမင်းကိုမတူရလေအောင်မချင်းရလေအောင်မပြောရလေအောင်ချိန်ဆပြီးတော့ကြီးရှုနေရတဲ့ကဲ့သို့ပဲတရားအထုတ်တဲ့ယောဂီများမှလည်းပဲပညာရှိဟူသောသမင်းချက်သမားရှိမှသာနေ Ayaya go, Pinay. Hayam, being at the Maribo Machigami Pipola, Pinaha, Imatama Yiki, the Madi Kong the Lao Pinaga to Delare, the Madi Kiki the Lao Pinaga Kiki, Dayang, Ayayama, Pinayha, Pinaya the Vodiario.
Just as a cook, I mean the one who is on the actual job of cooking the rice is very important, because he or she must adjust the things like water and rice proportions, and also the fire, how to cook and when to stop cooking and all that sort of thing. He or she must be able to adjust all these things. So just as we need a skilled cook in order to get good rice, so too in the practice, Panya, wisdom, is essential to know things in a true nature, to be able to penetrate the truth. So here, Panya, wisdom, is very important. As much as you are able to concentrate your mind, you are bound to cultivate knowledge or wisdom. Therefore, wisdom is necessary to know the true nature of things that you observe.
Pamu Pemu, Taimu Timu Sashide, Ayundi Goma, the Madi Dilare Kajaro, Maniere the Vodia, Signere the Vodia, assume you have any to the body to finish it, so that the Vodia, Pilare. A Pilare the Vodia, Pinya the Voe, Pinya. Baga Pipola the Lelu, a young Sarakaja, the Madi Shilo, Pipola the Boy, Tayam, the Madi Boma, Isaya that Pinaha, Mimia Sitama, Mimia Putama, Bola is Roshin, Nexa, Doka, Nada to the Tiaria, a Lulu Pilavali.
When you are able to connect your mind with precisely with the anchor objects like rising, falling, sitting, touching, and deepen your level of concentration, you are bound to cultivate knowledge, beginning with the realities of mind and body, their conditionality, and also the characteristics of existence, such as the rising and passing way of conditioned psychophysical phenomena, that they are impermanent, they are changeable, and what is changeable cannot be satisfactory. So you come to see the unsatisfactory nature of these phenomena, and also their selfless nature, which as being uncontrollable, unmanageable. Things arise on their own, not as at your will, and so on. So the cause of these things, cause of this insight knowledge, lies in the level of concentration, which you deepen. So this samadhi, concentration produced wisdom, is very essential to know the true characteristics of existence.
Timin Cherakama, Timin Ogo, Muivo, Yama Ludelu, Tia Atu the Yogi, Yon Lebe, Maya, the Titia Sura, and Tamaiki. The Titia Kainema Leve, Tiaga Tutelare. The Titia Makaineu, so in Tiaga Matudeu. Timin Cherakama, Timin Chadamari, Timin Chadamaga, Yoma, Kain Biro, Ludelau, Timingo, Hui Bima, Lane, Timiha, Matlu. Machevene, Timigong Chelane, Dayang, the Pinyari Udo, Timicha the Maha, Yamadi Udo, the Titiago, Lesue Vido, Timingo, Huibuya the Lu, the Titiadi Udo, Yamago, Pinyari Udo, Timicha the Maga, Kaimiro, Lu Ada Niarima, Malilaya Leon, the Tinya than Shifu Awari.
When you are cooking rice, you use a ladle. Of course, that is when you are not using the pressure cooker. With a pressure cooker, of course, you don't need a ladle. But in the old days, we didn't have the pressure cooker, so we use ordinary pot and pans and ordinary fire, open fire to cook rice. So we use this analogy. So in terms of this old style, traditional style cooking, we need the ladle to stir or mix as and when necessary. Not too much. If you mix too much, if you stir too much also, the rice will become softened. You will soften the rice. If you don't ladle also, it might stick at the bottom. So a skilled cook knows when and how to stir with the ladle. So this ladle is like the sati, which the yogis sustain and activate to be able to connect with the object as they arise, and this sati mindfulness has to be properly sustained and activated. A strong and precise mindfulness. It is necessary, like using this ladle. So when the cook uses this ladle to mix and to stir as and when he or she needs, then he or she will make a good rice, cooked rice. So the sati, which is like the ladle, has to be applied all the time, moderately, to adjust and to be able to adjust your mindfulness so that the mindfulness will be sustained all the time on the object to be noted.
နောက်ဆုံးကတော့ဝိရိယပါပဲဝိရိယကတော့မိနည်းဥပမာတူပါတယ်ထမင်းခဲတဲ့အခါမှာမိရဓမ္မအရေးကြီးတယ်မိမရှိဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ထမင်းကမဖြစ်နိုင်ဘူးမိရှိမှသာရင်ထမင်းကဖြစ်နိုင်တယ်အဲ့ဒီဥပမာနည်းတိုင်းပဲအထုမှုဆိုတဲ့ဝိရိယရှိမှတရားကပေါ်လာနိုင်တယ်အထုမှုဝိရိယမရှိရင်တရားကမပေါ်လာနိုင်ဘူးအထုတဲ့ဝိရိယကစွမ်းနိုင်သလောက်အင်အားရှိသလောက်တရားကပေါ်လာတယ်ဝိရိယများသလောက်တရားကအပေါ်များတယ်ဝိရိယနည်းရင်တရားကအပေါ်ခဲတယ်ထို့အတူထမင်းကြတဲ့ခါမှာလည်းပဲမိအားနည်းရင်ထမင်းကတော်တော်နဲ့မကျက်နိုင်ဘူးမိအားကောင်းလာမှထမင်းကကျက်တယ်လိုရာတဲ့ပူပြီးတော့မိများသွားပြန်ရင်လည်းပဲထမင်းဟာတူးနိုင်တယ်ချစ်နိုင်တယ်အဲ့ဒီဥပမာအတိုင်းပဲတရားအထုတဲ့ခါမှာအပိုးအလိုမရှိတဲ့ဝိရိယဟာအမတန်မှရည်ကြီးပါတယ်တရားအလုံးမှာအဓိကဟာဝိရိယအချက်ချာအဓိကဖြစ်ပါတယ်
The last factor which should be possessed by the practicing yogi is virya, energy, which is like fire. Fire is important. Without fire, it is impossible to cook rice. So also, in like manner, yogis has to exert energy in various steps, and so that one will realize the benefit of the practice. And also this energy has to be applied in a balanced manner, not to be too much excess, nor too little. If you are weak in energy also, you will not be able to, just like with the weak fire, you will not be able to cook rice. So also, with weak fire, just like electricity going off and all that sort of thing, then you will not be able to cook the rice. It will take a long time. And if the fire is too hot or too much, you put too much fire, then also it might scorch or burn the rice. So this energy has to be applied in moderation so that you can realize the benefit of the practice. That's why the virya energy is like the fire in cooking rice.
ဝိရိယတရားဟာအရေးကြီးတဲ့နေရာမှာပါနေတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်ခုတရားအထုတဲ့ယောဂီကလည်းပဲများသောအားဖြင့်ဝိရိယနည်းတာများတယ်ဝိရိယနည်းတယ်ဆိုတော့တရားအထုတဲ့အခါမှာပြင်းလာတတ်တယ်ဝိရိယအထုတဲ့ဝိရိယနည်းရင်ပြင်းလာတတ်တယ်ပြင်းလာတဲ့ခါကျတော့အင်္ဂိတ်လာတတ်တယ်အင်္ဂိတ်တဲ့အပြင်စိတ်တွေကလည်းပဲကြောင်ချာဖြည့်ပြီးတော့ဟိုရောက်လိုက်ဒီရောက်လိုက်ဟောစဉ်းစားလိုက်တရားစဉ်းစားလိုက်လို့ဖြစ်နေတတ်တယ်ဒါကြောင့်မို့ဝိရိယအစိုက်မှုဟာဓမ္မအရေးကြီးပါတယ်
This virya energy is very important. As a matter of fact, this practice of meditation is the exertion of energy. And in most cases, virya is never in excess but always in deficiency. yogis are deficient, yogis are weak in their energy. Because they are weak in energy, that is slackness, and even if they exert energy, the energy becomes easily exhausted, in which case they tend to nod, become sleepy, sluggish. Sloth and torpor can overcome yogis, the practicing yogis, which are the nearest and nearest close enemy of the yogis, so that when they are overcome by this sluggishness due to lack of energy, they become restless. Therefore, it is said that viriya, energy, is very important.
Viriyana Tamadi ha, 12 yearsရှိတယ် Viriyana Tamadi ညီမျှမှတရားကတက်လာနိုင်တယ် ပညာတက်လာနိုင်တယ် Viriya လွန်သွားပြန်ရင်လည်းတရားကမတုတ်ဘူး Tamadi လွန်သွားပြန်ရင်လည်းတရားကမတုတ်ဘူး Viriya နည်းသွားရင်လည်းတရားကမတုတ်ဘူး Tamadi နည်းသွားရင်လည်းတရားကမတုတ်ဘူး ဒါကြောင့် Viriya နဲ့ Tamadi ကိုမျှပြီးအထုဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်
These two things, mental states, viriya and samadhi, this energy and concentration are to be balanced. If one of them is in excess or in deficiency or weak, then you will not be able to progress in your practice. Suppose energy is too much in excess, you might overshoot your noting mind may overshoot your object to be noted. And if viriya is very weak, you may not be able to catch up with the object. And also concentration. If the concentration is too much, you can start nodding. And if your concentration is very little also, you will not be able to see things in their true nature. So these two things, energy, exertion of energy, and the concentration, have to be moderate, have to be balanced in the right proportions.
Viriya လွန်သွားပြန်ရင်လည်းစိတ်ပြလွင်တဲ့ဥဒိစ္စတရားဆိုတာဖြစ်သွားတတ်တယ် Tamadi လွန်သွားပြန်ရင်လည်းထိုက်မိုက်တဲ့ဌိနမိတ်ဆိုတဲ့ငိုက်မှုသဘောတရားဖြစ်သွားတတ်တယ် ဒါကြောင့်အဲ့ဒီ Viriya နဲ့ Tamadi နှစ်ခုကိုညီမျှအောင်အမြဲတမ်းအထုဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်
When this energy is in excess, what can happen is you can be overcome by this mental state called audacha, restlessness. So with too much of energy, you become restless. Your mind goes here and there. And also, if the concentration is too much in excess, you tend to be overcome by sloth and torpor. You will become slack and not be able to exert your energy. So these two things, energy and concentration, should be balanced in the practice.
ကိုဒီမှာတရားထိုင်တဲ့ယောဂီတွေကိုလာလေးလာတဲ့ခါကျတော့များသောအားဖြင့်အင်္ဂိုက်နေတဲ့ယောဂီတွေကတော်တော်လေးများတယ်ဒါသမာဓိလွန်လို့ပဲအင်္ဂိုက်သွားသလားသမဟုတ်အေးအေးမဝါလို့ပဲအင်္ဂိုက်နေသလားတော့မသိဘူး
Now when Saro studies the yogis practicing meditation, he finds that a lot of them are nodding, and nodding forward, bending and stretching their back, so that maybe it is due to excessive concentration, perhaps, or that they have not had enough sleep. တရားနဲ့ပညာတွေကတတွဲရှိပါတယ်တရားတရားတွေသိပြီးတော့လွန်ကဲလာနိုင်ရင်လည်းမကြည်ညိုဖြစ်တဲ့နေရာတွေမှာသွားပြီးတော့ကြည်ညိုပြီးတော့စိတ်တွေဖြစ်နေတတ်တယ်ပညာတွေသိပြီးတော့လွန်ကဲသွားပြန်ရင်လည်းစဉ်းစားတဲ့ဟာတွေကပို့ပြီးတော့များနေတတ်တယ်ဒါကြောင့်မို့တရားနဲ့ပညာတစ်ခုကညီမျှဖို့သိအရေးကြီးတယ်တရားပညာနှစ်ပါးညီမျှနေမှသာလျှင်ဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်ရှေ့ကိုတိုးတက်ပြီးတော့လာပါလိမ့်မယ် Again, there are two other mental states which have to be balanced, namely saddha, faith and confidence, and panya, wisdom. These two things need to be balanced in the practice. If saddha, faith and confidence is in excess, it can amount to blind faith, believing blindly in anything. And also if Panya, wisdom, is in excess, one may reason out too much, conceptualize too much, intellectualize too much, analyze too much. Therefore, it is necessary to balance these two factors also, namely Saddha, faith and confidence, and Panya, wisdom, in order to cultivate insight knowledge.
Saddha ne Panya leve ni myabido nime, Viriya ne Tamari leve ni myabido nime soyin. Eri yogi ha makyami teya thida bawe. Upama phe pyo me so lo shin ni motoka maung de kha ma set ka le kaung le, lan ka le kaung le, maung thama ka le chwan nyin le so shin khi anya so yaung ne delu be. Adi Saddha ne Panya Viriya Tamari teya ni mya me so shin teya aman teya amya so ya ba li me.
Therefore, these two pairs of mental states have to be balanced, Saddha and Panya, faith and wisdom, Viriya and Samadhi, energy and concentration. These two pairs have to be balanced. Then, very soon, the yogis are bound to gain insight. It is like driving a vehicle. If the vehicle has a good engine, and then the road also is good, and of course the traffic is clear also, and the driver is skilled, then one is bound to reach the destination in no time. So too with the practice. When these two pairs of mental states are balanced, one is bound to see the truth.
Ku pyo la deတရား6ပါးထဲမှာတကယ်လိုအပ်ဆုံးတရားကတော့ဝိရိယပါပဲလူနှစ်ယောက်ဟာပါရမီအထုရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဆိုကြပါစို့ပါရမီထုတူတဲ့ပါရမီထုရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဆိုကြပါစို့အရွယ်လဲတူမယ်အသိဉာဏ်ပညာလဲတူမယ်ပါရမီလဲတူမယ်ဒီလူနှစ်ယောက်ဟာတရားအထုတ်တဲ့အခါမှာနိုင်ပေါင်းတရားအထုတ်ရင်တရားရမယ်လို့ဆိုကြပါစို့ဥပမာပြဆိုကြပါစို့နိုင်ပေါင်းတရားအထုတ်ရင်တရားထုရမယ်အဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်နှစ်ဦးမှာတယောက်ကတနေ့မှတနာရီတရားရှုမှတ်တယ်တယောက်ကတနေ့မှ10နာရီတရားရှုမှတ်တယ်ဒါရှုမှတ်မှုတရားဝိရိယကတယောက်ကတနေ့မှတနာရီဝိရိယအထုတ်ရတယ်တယောက်ကတနေ့မှဝိရိယ10ကြိမ်အထုတ်ရတယ်ဆိုတော့တနေ့မှ10ကြိမ်တရားထိုင်ရပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာ10ရက်နဲ့တရားရသွားတယ်တနေ့မှတနာရီထိုင်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြတော့ရက်ပေါင်း100ကြာမှတရားရတယ်ဒီလိုဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တို့ရဲ့ခြားနာကြကိုလက်ကျဲတဲ့ခါကျတော့အဓိကမှာဝိရိယဖြစ်နေတယ်ဒါကြောင့်ခုပြောလာတဲ့တရား6ပါးထဲမှာဝိရိယအလွန်အရေးကြီးတဲ့တရားဆိုတာယောဂီတိုက်ဖတ်ဖို့လိုအပ်ပါပြီ
Of these 6 factors which the practitioners need to possess, Viriya, energy, is the criteria, most important. Let us say there are 2 persons of equal qualities in terms of their age, intelligence, and their perfections, spiritual perfections, the things they have done previously, their background. And let us say that for the sake of calculation, they will gain insight in 100 hours. Now, the first person practices only 1 hour a day, and the second one practices 10 hours a day. So, because they will gain insight within 100 hours, the first one will take 100 days to gain insight, and the second person will take only 10 days, because that makes 100 hours to gain insight. So that's the difference between the momentum or the quality of the 2 persons, how soon they will gain insight. Therefore, in this case, we understand that this Viriya energy is the criteria.
ခုသမင်းခေသမာဥပမာနည်းနဲ့ဘုန်းကြီးတရားဟောလာတယ်တရားတော့ဥပမာပေးတရားကုံသွားပါပြီခုယောဂီတွေကသမင်းခေသမာတွေပါပဲယောဂီတွေသမင်းခေသမာဆိုတော့ကိုယ်မှာအိုလည်းရှိတယ် San le shi de, ye le shi de, Yoma le shi de, Airo, mi le shi de, Ko ba lu ani de surao, ko chichimulu ade. Chichimulu araga, Nadratia lu ani de la, Tila lu ani de la, Samadi lu ani de la, Pinya lu ani de la, Sati lu ani de la, Uriya lu ani de la, Beha lu ani de le sura, Kuwaku, Chichimu de yiki. Lu ani de Tiago, Pianiro, Ai, Chipihu yiki. Pini de Tiago Ropi, Nota Archisiam, Lu ani de Tiago, in Achipihu lu avare.
Now, as for the six factors, we have completed this analogy, example. The yogis are like the cooks to cook the rice. Now they already possess a pot to cook the rice, and they already have this rice to cook, and then the water to cook with the rice, and the ladle to mix or stir. They have the fire to cook with. So what do they need? Do they need sada, faith and confidence in the practice? Do they have enough sada? Can they sustain these training precepts? Or are they not realizing any insight knowledge, panya? Or are they not able to sustain their mindfulness, sati? Or are they deficient in energy, viriya, exertion of energy? So they have to examine by themselves their own situation and see which is strong, which is weak. And if it is already strong, of course you need not do anything. But if it's weak and deficient, you got to fill up this weakness, this deficiency. So yogis only have to examine themselves and see where they're weak and where they are strong. Now Sayadaw today has given you the essence of the practice, the method of cooking rice. You are all cooks to cook the rice. So you will be, if you are good cooks, you will have good rice, and you will enjoy this rice tomorrow morning or tomorrow lunchtime. So right now he has completed the 6 analogies that they discourse on the 6 analogies, and so he concludes today by exhorting you to be good cooks. Sadhu, 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 sadhu.